Hello from Prague, from our library in Prague called Crossroads Center. I thought I'd run out of the things I had recorded earlier, and now the pace of our work here has slowed down a little bit. Tonight, what is today? Today is the 19th of September. I get to do my part one of my favorite talk that I give on personality styles and how it relates to relationships. We had a wonderful grand opening for the library, and I'll be posting that up on our updates later, because I did some video, and I would love for you to see it. Still pictures don't do it justice, and video, well, it's better than still pictures. But for us today, let's look at Psalm 63, verse 3. Your unfailing love is better than life itself. That's a very poetic thought. I'm not sure many of us could honestly say, yeah, if between me living and having your unfailing love, I'll pick unfailing love every time. Well, I'm not even sure that's what David was saying. I think your unfailing love is better than life. Your loving kindness is better than life in other translations. Well, yeah, on some levels, God's loving kindness is better than, for me, this is true, better than just living. As a matter of fact, I think God created us with this longing for a sense of needing His unfailing love, His loving kindness. One of the difficulties is that's very churchish and Christianese vocabulary, where someone who doesn't know God, doesn't have a connection to the church, when they hear that idea, your loving kindness is better than life, your unfailing love is better than life, they probably aren't thinking the same thing we are. It is true nonetheless. I want a life that is connected to the unfailing love of my God, to a life that is connected to His loving kindness, so that in a sense, knowing His unfailing love, experiencing His loving kindness is so much far better than just my ordinary life. Now, I hope you have friends who don't know the Lord. And for them, this is going to be a really tough concept, especially in America, most Americans. And you know what? I don't think it's just American. I think it's all the places I have been. Let me just put it that way. We want a good life. Is it wrong to want a life that is good? And the truth is, most of us want a life that's not only good, but pretty easy. Guilty. God's design is to love us unconditionally, unfailingly, that His loving kindness it is constantly poured out. But, it's just like the waters of a waterfall. They're constantly falling, but if I want a glass of water, I got to get under the waterfall somehow, right? That's a very poor illustration, but the concept is his loving kindness, his unfailing love is available to all of us. We must put ourselves in a position to receive from him the unfailing and unconditional love that he already is pouring out. It's not like God waits to pour out his love until we need it or ask for it. I think it is there. And when I ask for his love, when I ask to experience his loving kindness, his unfailing love, the answer to my prayer is that he helps me in my heart and mind receive it, accept it. David says, your unfailing love is better than life itself, which is, that is actually, I think, this is a poetic, motif, and sometimes the exaggerated phrase conveys the heart of the meaning, and in this case, thankfully, we don't have to choose between life and God's love. I don't know that would ever be a choice we'll have to make. However, to experience his love, that we do kind of have to, I don't know, I guess I would say, arrange our lives in such a way as to be able to accept it. How I praise you, David says. See, this is not just what a great idea. Well, it is a great idea, but it's more visceral than that. It is more central in our heart than just the idea planted in our brain. Your unfailing love is better than life. How I praise you. Ultimately, my praise is a response to God's love. For me, I talk about this a bunch, and so if you're tired of me talking about it, let me apologize in advance. But worship is my response to God's grace. And praise, as a part of worship, is my response to God's loving kindness. So, one aspect of this, in my opinion, is when you are struggling, when you sense, I go through these seasons when I sense, I'm not praising enough. Something that doesn't help me is going to church and having a worship leader go, come on, praise the Lord more, do better with this. That doesn't help me. I don't get more praise-ish from that. And part of it is I'm just proud and I don't like to be told what to do. But you know the other part? What produces praise in us most consistently is reflecting on God's unfailing love, his loving kindness, and remembering when you experience that. And as a matter of fact, I'm a big believer in when we can, and we can't always do this, but often we can, travel back in our memory and relive the moment. Do you remember when you last experienced God's loving kindness? It could have been on a very large scale, but it could also have been, this happens to me, his loving kindness comes down to me in little ways. When I woke up this morning and I looked over and saw my bride still asleep which usually it's the other way around, but we're 9 time zones removed from home, so my body and brain have not a clue when it's time to get up or not. But when I looked over at her, that was an expression of God's loving kindness. Sometimes on my iPhone or my iPad, I will look through the pictures that are stored there. And often those pictures remind me of God's loving kindness. You know, I can't go back to that, and I don't want to live in the past. But God created our brain in such a way that we can go back to these encounters with God's loving kindness, with his unfailing love in such a way that we re-encounter it through our memory. So I want to suggest you do that today. I don't think you have to set aside the next 45 minutes. I will dwell on this. No. But maybe if you've got pictures on your smartphone, go look at your pictures. Let them cue your memory. Another way would be to go through your calendar and remember. You see, I get where I finish a day and then I'm on to the next. I don't really think much about the day, except I force myself to do that in my journaling. I journal about yesterday, about my decisions, my experiences, my good decisions and my bad decisions, and then the experiences that came out of that. And I reflect on yesterday. I don't want to, as I said, I don't want to live there, but I want to, there's value in. And I write in my journal, and when I get done with a book, fill a book up, I throw it away because nobody else needs to see that. Occasionally I'll go back and reread it. If you journal, you may want to go back and reread your journal and identify times where you encountered God's unfailing love. And then last, before I close out today, I just want to focus on that term, unfailing love. I love my wife, Debbie. I can't even explain to you how much I do. I love things about her. I love how she does stuff. I love who she is. And yes, there are things that if I was writing the script, I'd say, don't do that so much. But that's a tiny, tiny piece of the picture. I love her. And yet, I don't think I can say I have unfailing love. I'm not sure any human being could say that. For Debbie, for our 3 daughters, our 4 grandkids, my brothers, and my sister when she was living, I could say that group probably comes the closest to anyone in my life that I am able to pull off unfailing love for. But you get people tick you off. They do things that bug you. I'm not sure that God is unbuggable. I think he is, but I do know this. When I do and say things that would bug him, meaning when I do and say things that are outside of his design, the one thing I can be sure of is he doesn't turn off the spigot of his love when I do that. His unfailing love means it never fails. And in fact, unfailing love cannot fail. This is the love God has for us. Why would we not be thrilled as we reflect on his love to compare it to, it's more precious to me than life itself. And when I think about his loving kindness, how can I not give him praise? Well, that's enough for today. I'll probably do another one because I don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. I'll see you next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.